Good afternoon, good evening. We're back on the Geneva roadside where I spend so much of my time these days. About what I've been detailing in these videos is that there is always something of an action focused at my life. I can't do anything about it. I have a record of maybe 10,000 thoughtful, sensible reports sent to various authorities around the nation. Constantly working. But I can't make phone calls about every time I hear the same people saying creepy, lousy threats that I hope that they're maybe already being surrounded about, you know. I apologize, you know, earlier I botched a video because I was being interrupted by a usual criminal. I think maybe he's from the Osprey area, maybe associated with some corruption of the Marines and with subversion within the Republican Party. I don't have details about that right now. But there have also been hundreds of carrying 911 calls through the years, and I'm somebody that doesn't like to call the attention of deputies about any trivial matters. You know, I don't ever get contacted about the results of the matters, but there is always a lot of stress and strife focused at me, and one of the best ways that I adjusted to coping about the matter is to keep a written record that can really, as I've said many times in my writing all around the nation, that on any day, even if I would use 100 pages, 100 index cards, both sides small print, is I can only note a fraction of what I hear put at me on a lot of the days. Now this morning, I know that there's a lot of good matters. I don't like to be critical of authorities. I'd still very much rely upon the responses of deputies. I've spoken to many, but about action that doesn't involve any physical action on the scene, that I have been basically compelled to defer it to written reports and summaries, a matter that has been continuing for years. To review them reminds of a lot of stressful time that I couldn't actually get help about, and encapsulating, some people like to accuse me of instances of negligence. But I'm willing to face the nation pertaining to the journals. I have already completed years of journals day to day. There's thousands of concern titles that are potentially or had been potentially important to our people and our nation's security. Years ago, before I ever learned about email, there was an instance. I recall one instance, a very tired instance, of walking into the FBI office downtown. I don't know anything about any street activity. I don't know anything about any drugs. But what I did know is I was worried about a lot of other matters that are really thoughtful, that involve research from magazines and, you know, and noting the various broadcasting action. And one time I had a jumble of a lot of pages that I got from various magazines, and it all made sense to me because I had studied it, but I didn't have. I was being forced to be homeless, so it was a very tattered presentation with basically without any written summary, and with an assumption of, well, you guys will be you'll notice what I was worried about on all these pages. What it was a matter of editorial placement, you know, where. Like if you see on one side of a page a pretty lady driving a convertible, the other side of a page is a circular saw ad from space above her convertible plunging down at her head. You know, editorial placement to convey indications of bad threat, but not overtly. In other words, from one page to another. Anyway, there was a lot of examples of that. But you know, through the years and up until these times, I'm saying that I gained better skills. I became more aware, and the presentations became very presentable. And there's now an accumulation of a lot of years of it, day-to-day work. So this is what I've decided to do, And sometimes I tell you, it doesn't make much sense to me when I consider what my situation is and how I look to people about sitting out on my chair on the roadside. But I am intending to at least become a write-in candidate for the position of a representative of the Congress from the 16th district. You know, there is a lot of adversity. There were certainly a lot of snafus earlier in my life. Most of it was brought about by the displacement of being forced to the roadside. A loud rampage is even psychically disruptive. You know? But I hold myself accountable for some of the mistakes, and I don't really need to mention anything right now, but I will be. I already have also, sometimes with some amusement on the Twitter account. Everything has at least been detailed once to local authorities or national authorities, and there's been volumes of good work sent to news people all around the nation. And you know, it's just overwhelming. Because of the disruption, I don't have any personal friends. At the end of any day, what happens is an abuse family that mostly I never even knew existed through my earlier life starts taking over in the various towns all around, and they are a bad variety of gays, and they like to always threaten, you know, and they like to always note, and they always like to assert being from a medical malpractice that gave them the ability to secretly subvert my life through the earlier years also. So I don't have any reassurances. I don't have anyone I can call. There isn't anyone from the past. You know, it's just a dilemma that I'm having to cope about alone. But I'll tell you also that every day, starting some years ago actually, there is really an extraordinary amount of concern, caring, knowledgeable consideration by people passing by every day. It really is extraordinary. It's almost like being something like a celebrity in some ways, except for being somebody that isn't an entertainment, you know, except for having money, not having any money. It's a matter of being publicly known, and that a lot of the matters are publicly known, and there is a lot of, most all the commenting that I actually see is considerate. Not people stopping and wanting to chat. You know, there is disruption, but people that are aware and comment considerately. Some of them might be partly compelled to speak because of difficulties that they themselves experience, that the people experience. A creepy fly just buzzed. I just swatted my hand at a fly. And so I'm wanting to go ahead and try to present these matters. And when I register to be a candidate in June, that I believe that there will probably be a way to deposit material supportive of my campaign to the court or to whomever most appropriate. And of course, I am completely aware that includes police. So it is very irritating to always be heckled at, you know, by persons that are never on the scene and who always like to say words to provoke what would, you know, that they try to make a fight, assaults, you know, they're just really very provocative. And I know that some have seen me looking angry sometimes on the roadside without being able to hear the reasons. But the reason is I'm really an even-tempered, considerate man, but I am always intruded at by something that's exactly opposite. So anyway, I'm going to abbreviate this, but there will be more detail. I wasn't sure what I was going to say, so it sounded like I fumbled the word detail. And then, you know, I'm going to try to make it as good as I can. So for now, I am saying that I apologize that it seems like I'm being negligent about not making phone calls every time I hear threats said, you know. But I'm just sometimes having to trust. You know, if I see an incident, I do my best to make sure to call immediately. I've spoken to deputies many times. I've had to make 911 calls where the persons I'm talking against are right out there in the dark, you know, listening to my every word. So I've had to cope a lot of stress, and I'm saying I'm going to try to be as good as I can be about it. And if it turns out that I'm qualified and considered qualified, I believe that for at least 2 years that I would make a very good representative for the safety and security of the people and nation. I hope you're going to have a good evening.